Welcome back. This is the 10th segment out of 63 of this series that we're calling Because It's True, making the case for Christianity in bite-sized pieces. In the last segment, I made the case that as we look at the Bible, we read through the Bible, and especially when we read through the New Testament, and especially when we look at John the Baptist, we come to realize that doubt is not a sin. The question is, what do you do with that doubt so that it doesn't lead to sin, the sin being unbelief? Well, it's in that 11th chapter of Matthew where we get this great account of John the Baptist, who you think if anybody is going to ever confidently move forward in his relationship with Jesus is going to be John the Baptist. And yet, finding himself in prison where he certainly didn't expect to be, a prison sentence that is not going to end with him alive, he sends a message to Jesus through his own followers and asks, "Are you the expected one, or do we look for another?" And in addition to that, for my sake, being a very encouraging verse, John also provides us with a model of how to deal with the doubts that we have when they inevitably surface. Number one, he acknowledged his doubts. He didn't stuff them and ignore them. You can't deal with an issue if you don't acknowledge that it's there. But he not only acknowledged his doubts, he acknowledged his doubts publicly. This message that he sent to Jesus, he sent through his own followers. These were the guys who were going, wait, perhaps they were going, wait, we're following Jesus because you're following Jesus because we're following you. And if you're, wait. But he was willing to take this risk because the issues are not issues that need to be put under a bush or a barrel or dug under the house and not grappled with in community with other believers. Now, I want to suggest to you that many Christians, and I really am concerned about Christians right now, are hesitant to acknowledge their doubts, much less acknowledge them publicly, for three reasons. One is they don't want to risk their reputation. Perhaps they are known for being a Christian. Perhaps they have responsibilities in the community, in their local church, in their relationships with their neighbors, because they're Christians. It could be that if they're sitting in some class at church where they have a leadership role and they bring up some doubt that they have about the Christian faith, they may lose that position. Secondly, they're lazy. You know, the fact of the matter is that to deal with our doubts requires work. It means sitting down and getting a grip on what it is that's bothering us, what the questions are, and looking for some answers. It's a lot easier to just ignore them and keep clicking the television, surfing, and not put your mind to it. But the third reason that Christians especially, well, in this case it would only be Christians, are hesitant to address their doubts is because they will have to admit to the possibility that the Christian faith is not true. If you've got a doubt about the Christian faith and you're going to address it, you have to entertain the possibility that your doubt is well-founded. And that is scary for some people. But John the Baptist, if anything, he was a man of courage, acknowledges, provides us with a model of how to deal with doubt, a model that culminates in the most essential thing that we can do. And it's what John did. He took his questions to Jesus. If you're having difficulty with Jesus, if you're questioning whether Jesus is who he claimed to be, did what he claimed to do, take your questions to Jesus. Now, if he's not who he claimed to be, and if he didn't do what he claimed to do, and none of it's true, what have you lost? But if it is true, and he is who he claimed to be, then who better to take your questions to?